Hey lovelies, I am back with another installment of my wedding series. Look at me making 2 videos in less than a month. Look at here. I told y'all I'm gonna try to be a little more consistent, so here I am. I hope that y'all have had a great week. And so today I'm gonna be talking about micro weddings. So I honestly had not heard of the term micro wedding. I hadn't heard the term micro wedding. I knew that there were small weddings. I knew about elopements and things like that, but I didn't know there was a very specific terminology that had been created in the wedding space until I was looking up places to have a small wedding. And so just for context, if you're anything like me, I would like to share the definition that I found for micro wedding across several different websites. So a micro wedding is a smaller and more intimate version of a traditional wedding. It typically has a guest count of fewer than 50 people. So this is like a recurring thing that I saw. And so if I'm being honest with y'all, some people have asked me why did I have a micro wedding? Some people have been very intrigued by the idea of a micro wedding, especially because it's more popular to have a big traditional wedding with a lot of guests, and that's a more common thing. And I think too, because I am on social media, people expected my wedding to be grander than it was. And so a few things, I think I mentioned this before, but the reason that I had a micro wedding is because if I'm being honest with you, I was never a girl growing up who was dreaming about getting married. My family, my cousins, the ones I'm close to, my mom would tell you that I grew up saying I was never getting married. I wasn't just be worried about no man, and I wasn't about to get married. I was gonna do me. I was gonna travel. I was gonna. Y'all, my light went out for some reason. All right. I was gonna do. I'm trying to ring light y'all because I'm trying to make these videos. So here we are. But anyway, I was going to do whatever I wanted to do, and I just was not trying to get married. Some of my friends in high school made wedding books and stuff, and that was just not me. I thought love was great and it was cool, whatever, but that just wasn't me. And then in my 20s, I was dating someone that was actually unhealthy for me, but once I was dating him, I fell out in love, and I was like, oh, now I want to get married, right? And so then I did decide that I wanted to be the person who would get married, but over time, I just didn't want a big thing. There was a brief instance in my life where I dabbled in wedding planning, and just starting to see how stressful it could be for people, how expensive it can be, how much it costs per plate, per person, for a bartender, all these things really just kind of turned me off from the idea of a big wedding. So I knew that I didn't want a big wedding. My husband also didn't want a big wedding for his various reasons, and some of them similar, some of them different. And so it was just kind of a no-brainer. So even before I got engaged, I knew that I was not going to have a big wedding. Some people have micro weddings or small weddings because of financial reasons or things like that. But for me, it was more so about of course, I didn't want to spend all that money, but also about just having something that was very intimate and focused on me, really, and him. So anyway, so I had a micro wedding, and so today I want to share some tips, some ideas, some things about having your own micro wedding, because I realize that people are interested, and it's still kind of new-ish idea, and I've had questions about planning a micro wedding. So I made notes because y'all know that I'm forgetful and I will be rambling and not staying the course. Okay, so here are a few things about having a micro wedding. You should have some sort of budget. Okay, I am not gonna sit here and tell you that I had a $500 micro wedding. I see when I was going down the micro wedding elopement tunnel of things, I did come across these videos about $500 weddings, these sort of things. And while they are cute and fascinating, it was just not it was not for me. Okay. One thing that I really liked about the idea of a micro wedding, or the definition of micro wedding, is that it's still a traditional wedding. So it wasn't just like we went to some place randomly and got married, boom. It was a very traditional. I walked down the aisle. We had a minister. We didn't say any special vows, but we said the traditional Christian vows. We had prayer. Like, it was still a full-on traditional wedding ceremony without like all the extra stuff. And so along with that, I knew I didn't want an elopement. I liked the idea of having a little bit more tradition involved in my wedding. But anyway, back to the budget. So I think you should have some idea of like what you want to stay around, whether that is a $500 wedding or it's $5,000 or more. Like, think about what you want to spend, and then plan accordingly. I think it's also important to note that people consider different things in their cost of their wedding. Some people just consider the cost of the wedding, the venue and the decorations and like a reception. They're not taking into consideration how much they pay for their dress. Did they buy new shoes? How much they pay for a veil if they had a veil? How much they pay for wedding bands? How much it costs to get your makeup done, your hair done? Like, these are all things that add up. And so just making sure that you have some number that you want to stay around, even just for specific things. Like, I knew when I decided that I wanted to do little drink coins for our guests, to keep them from having too many drinks at our little small reception. I knew that I didn't want to spend like more than $70. So I was on Etsy searching, so it doesn't have to be like you have this hard line number, but just have some numbers in mind as you're planning on like what you are going to spend on different things. I knew that for my dress, I wanted to stay under like $2,000. But what I didn't consider when I wanted to stay under $2,000 was alterations, right? So then I had to pay alterations, which was a different price, but that wasn't something I thought about. So just keeping those sort of things in mind, and know that all the little things kind of add up and kind of catch up to you. So have some buffer for whatever you want to spend. And and if I didn't say this already, just want to name that, like, you don't have to, just because you're having a micro wedding doesn't mean that you have to stick to a certain type of budget or a certain type of ceremony or certain type of outline. Like, you don't have to follow certain rules for having a micro wedding, because at the end of the day, it's all about you. You can make it what you want it to be, which takes me to one of my other tips or rules, is to make sure that the day is all about you and your fiance, your spouse to be. That means that sometimes you might upset some people, right? Like, sometimes everyone's not going to love the fact that you're having a micro wedding, and that's okay. Making sure that you make time for y'all to see each other and do some whatever joke, whatever that is that like makes you feel very comfortable and assured and confident on that day. Making sure that you make time for that, making sure that you have some support from family and friends so that you're not stressed out about like the little details. Even though it's a micro wedding, it still can be stressful, right? And so just something to keep in mind as you're planning the whole time is to make it about you, all right? And do so understanding that everyone can't be invited to the wedding, because it's a micro wedding. So the definition online is like 50 people or fewer. Here's the thing, I have like 50 first cousins. So my family functions alone, or just Christmas or something, is a lot of people. There are people I could not invite. That was just not, and I'm okay with that, right? But that also meant that some people might not be very happy or weren't happy at some point about the fact that I was getting married and that they weren't invited. You have to also be okay with that, and that ties back into making sure that the micro wedding, in your wedding, your ceremony, or whatever, is about you and not concerning yourself with others. I have friends, I know people who have had larger weddings, and they're stressed over seating arrangements and seating charts and plating and all these things, and it could just become so overwhelming and so stressful, and you lose sight of just focusing on you and your partner, your fiance. And so it's okay to let some people down. If they love you, they'll be okay. My next one is don't limit your venue options. If I'm being honest, I really didn't know what kind of places would allow, a small wedding of 20 or less people. It could have been less than that, right? Besides a courthouse. I really just wasn't sure. That also didn't cost like a ridiculous amount, because I didn't feel like I wanted to pay several $1,000s for what was going to be a very brief, like, in and out ceremony, right? And so I just was very thorough in my research. I was just like doing a lot of Googling, of course, discovered that there are people that plan these type of weddings specifically and all that, but I was going to do my own. I didn't need like a whole wedding planner for that. But be open to the type of venue that you can choose. I was just doing a bunch of research, came across the Julia Idison Library. They do have a space for like big weddings, and I was doing a little more digging and realized that they do elopement ceremonies where you can have no more than 20 people, including the bride, the groom, the photographer, all the people. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I went and checked it out, and it was great. But I also checked out some other venues that were like open space venues. Of course, I mentioned in the previous video that I went to the courthouse to check it out. So just be open. Of course, there's parks. I wanted to do it at a park, a botanical garden, which also is some place to look, right? But they just didn't have any openings on the date that I wanted. But there's just so many ways to find a venue that taps into you. And I feel like we did a really great job, or I did a great job of finding a venue that really reflected us. We do both enjoy reading, even though we didn't get married in the library. We chose the courtyard, but we also like to be outside. We like flowers and sunshine, those sort of things. The decor or the architecture felt vintage. It was an older building, which very much fits us and who we are. And so just tap into who you are, what you want your day to say about you, the aesthetic you want to have, and be open to the type of venues that you might find. It might require a little extra digging around, but you can find a cool space, and you can do so without even having to spend a lot of money, because some places will offer packages that are just specifically for smaller micro weddings or elopements. Now you might have to get in and out quick, let me tell you that. But the place we had 3 hours, which really wasn't like insane amount of time. Our ceremony was maybe 30-40 minutes, so it was enough time to set up, and then have our ceremony, take some pictures, and we were done, right? So there are plenty of options out there. Be open to what those options might be. Something that I think you should really focus on is like deciding what is most important to you on that day. Like what matters most before you start doing anything else. Like what matters most to you. And for me, I think I mentioned in the previous video, wanted to have a really good photographer. I did want it to be like a space that that we liked, that we liked. We wanted to be officiated by one of the pastors at our church, and we wanted to just feel intimate. And I did want to I wanted to still feel like a ceremony, and like it was purposeful and intentional, and still still pretty, right? I didn't want to just like, oh, I'm just throwing something on and walking up and doing something, right? I still wanted to feel like a very special day. And so I was just intentional about the little things that made it feel that way. So our venue, we chose the courtyard. It didn't come with any like chairs or anything. So I made sure that I found a vendor that would deliver Chiavari chairs, but would do so and pick them up in the same 3-hour window, because a lot of places required us to pick them up and then drop them off the next day, and who has time for that? But I wanted to still feel like an actual ceremony, so those chairs were important to me. Something else which is another tip that I have, is to make sure you make the day feel personalized. So we had little welcome cards on the seats with pictures of us over the years, and like a message to our friends and family. At our reception afterwards, we had custom cocktail napkins, which we still have quite a few of and just are going to use until they run out, which I kind of like looking at sometimes, randomly seeing those napkins. As I mentioned before, the little custom thank you cards. Also, I'm not thank you cards. Drink tokens, which I guess could also then take like as a souvenir. But just still make the day feel very personal. Having a couple of my friends there to help me get ready, like it's still a special day, right? So sometimes you could potentially feel as though by having a smaller scale wedding, a more intimate wedding that is not as special as some big, celebration, but it is. Whatever you're doing, whether you're going to the courthouse, whether you're going in the pastor's office, whether you're going to be in a garden, in the backyard, it's still special, and you should make it feel special and personal to you. Another tip that I have, which was one of those things that was important to me, but I do encourage people to hire a photographer. You want to have someone to capture those memories and it not just be like your friend's phone memories. I love the pictures that our friends took on their phones and the videos and stuff like that. It allows us to see stuff before the professional pictures came, but I also really love having those pictures from my photographer that we're gonna frame and put in the album and all these things. And so I encourage you to do that for your special day, big or small. And then one of my last things, and this was one, if I'm being honest, I went back and forth on a lot, but I think and at the end of the day, I have no regrets about it, and that would be to have some sort of reception. Like whether it's just a cake cutting situation, whether it's a kickback at the house, which is one thing I did consider. Whatever it is, it's just a great way to fellowship with the people that you invited to your small ceremony, the people that you love and care about most, and to like fellowship with them and have a good time, and also allow them to celebrate you. They've made their way to wherever to see you get married, exchange vows, get married, and it's a great way to celebrate with them without having to do the most. So I mentioned in my previous video that we had a small reception for those in Houston or in Denver, Garden Grace restaurant. We rented a room and did, of course you have a food and drink minimum. They had like floral arrangements to set up, and we had music, and friends gave us toast, and we ate and we laughed, and it was just a great way to like close out after the ceremony. So I encourage that. Like I said, it could just be a cake cutting. Do whatever works for you and your type of wedding, your personality, your budget, all those things. But I just think I do encourage you to do that. And I definitely went back and forth for like quite some time, because I was also like, just like, man, having this small reception was resulting in us spending more money than I initially thought and planned to in my head. But I'm glad that I changed my mind about that, because it was great to spend time with our family and friends in that way. And then we went out after, which is even more fun. And so I do encourage that. I believe that those are all of my tips for having a micro wedding. If you have additional questions about planning a micro wedding, what did it look like, to like sketch out all the ideas or whatever, I don't know what your additional micro wedding questions are. I think I answered all the ones that were already sent to me. If I didn't, let me know in the comments and I will be sure to answer them. But I am team micro wedding. I think that it is a wonderful way to have a very intimate transition into marriage with the people that you love. And you can love other people too, but the people that you pick, the people that you want to be there together. It's also not so stressful. If I'm being honest, I was barely ever stressed about like getting married in 3.5 months, right? But I think that's also attributed to the idea or the fact that I had a micro wedding, and so I wasn't worried about who's gonna sit by each other. I wasn't worried about making sure I had enough liquor for the bartender. Just so many things that can make a wedding stressful. I didn't worry about a whole lot of bridal party stuff. I had my cousin was my maid of honor. my husband's best friend was his best man. He came in town. We told him a color. They picked something to wear. Like, it was low stress. And with that in mind, my last tip is to let go of some of the control. Like, everything doesn't have to be perfect. Whether you're having a big wedding or a micro wedding, really, like, everything doesn't have to be perfect. Trying to make it a perfect wedding will lead to stress, and you don't want to be stressed on your wedding day, leading up to your wedding day. You just want to be happy and having fun and excited, and not stressed out about all the things that can often lead to stress in weddings. So anyway, I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you have micro wedding questions or wedding questions in general, feel free to drop them in the comments or send me an email, and I will be back with another video in the wedding series at some point. But I think my next video will not be a wedding series video. It's going to be about a little bit of a transition for this page, this site, this whatever you want to call it, and the kind of things that I want to share. And then maybe even after that, when I've already made a video, a cooking video, because people always ask me about like cooking on Instagram, and so I'm gonna try to share a little bit more of that. So anyway, thank y'all for watching, and I will see you next time.